It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen. It's a podcast and YouTube series where tattoo artists and piercer talk about common questions that people that collect tattoos, piercings, and other body modifications may have. Brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo and the Axiom Body Piercing Studio. Today's crew, we have the usual crew, the motley crew, the only crew. Jack Lowe from Skin Kitchen Tattoo.
Howdy.
Wesley Dickerson from Skin Kitchen Tattoo. Jimmy St. John from Skin Kitchen Tattoo. And me, DaVo, from the Axiom Body Piercing Studio. So we have tattoo artist, piercer.
Piercer guy.
Today's question was submitted by Kels Herselves. I think that's the name.
What up, Kels?
Kels.
This is a long one, and I'll try to suffer through reading it.
You want me to read it?
Fun it's a really good question.
You want me to read
There
it?
you go.
Great question.
It's a great question.
All right. Yeah, it's super good. So, okay, here we go. I'm going to try out my new progressive lenses because I'm
They do look so
elderly.
good on you.
Oh, it's so high tech.
I'm still trying to...
I think they look good on you.
trying to feel them.
Anyway,
Anyway.
the camera girl. What do you think?
All right, Kels, here you go. Do you feel that body modification still represents an act of rebellion against colonial body politics, despite its increasing social approval? Or has body modification as a rebellious act been acculturated, thank you, by the forces of capitalism?
That was a tough word
Does
for
body
me.
modification continue to represent an urge towards modern primitive and away from colonial lifestyles, or has it become a kind of postmodern narcissism? What a great question.
Excellent question.
It covers
Wow.
a lot of things.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I always look at people's motivations, and a lot of people don't even understand their own motivations when they get stuff done. The biggest thing that I can say different between me starting piercing 26 years ago and you getting in 93, was it when you
Yep.
started? So 27 years, and Jimmy's been in for a while, a little less.
1999.
Wes, a little less. Well, that's hard to say.
Yeah, a little tongue twisty.
Anyway, is the accessibility to getting art done in modifications is a great deal better than it was.
Oh, yeah.
For me to get tattooed, when I first started getting tattooed, which goes back over 30 years ago, I had to go somewhere, the only decent shop in town, probably the only decent shop within probably a 3 or 4 hour radius. I would have to schedule roughly a month and a half in advance because you scheduled on the 1st and the 15th. And I had to wait that whole time and then set up another appointment the next month.
And that
otherwise,
was for 2 hours probably, usually.
Otherwise, I would have to travel anywhere from 4 to 5 hours to a major city and find somebody and luck out maybe if it was a good artist.
Right.
We were lucky in Des Moines because we had somebody that actually gave a crap and was into Sherry Sears, of course, is who I'm talking about.
Yep.
Who was more of that kind of new renaissance that started in the 80s of better quality tattoos.
What a great ambassador.
You know, our other option was, you know, the people that had bought the screw your best friend over special from Huck and Spaulding and started tattooing in their basement, or the old school biker guy that, you know, claims he's done all this work, but you've never seen anything he's done that looks good.
Right.
And it was like, you know, that was it. Piercing wise, you had to travel to Chicago. You had to travel to New York. You had to travel to L.A. There were no other options.
Very true.
So now, you know, in just the metro area, there's close to 30 shops. There's 30 there, and in those shops, there's probably close to 75 different artists you can choose from. Piercers, I would say there's at least 20 of them, maybe 30. So you have a lot more options, and it's more accessible.
Availability, yeah.
And the thing that brings us back over and over again is I get people from every walk of life, and the most consistent thing I hear from them is this: I've always wanted this, but I never could figure out how to get it. I never went through the process of actually doing it. This is an urge I have that has nothing to do with Pinterest, social media, what I've seen my favorite basketball player, etc. Now, I will admit there are people that are drawn to it by that. But I think underlining, they have that desire to get a tattoo. Now, whether or not they get the same design that their favorite, you know, sports car
They
driving,
would have eventually got into it, I think.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I think there's a dog wagging, the tail wagging the dog kind of thing here. I think the reason there is that availability and there are more shops and more technicians and artists doing that is because
paper there?
there is more demand.
Yeah.
So I think the demand came from the exchange and the access to media.
Yeah.
As people are able to see other people more often from other places via their smartphone or their computers or their iPads, they're going to see that as, ooh, well, that's going on.
Well, it's
and
way
I,
more-
li- and I
yeah,
like it.
much more exposure.
So, and then, ooh, that guy I like or that woman I follow on here or there has that. That's really neat. So even if it's not really going on all over the place, a lot of people are taking
It's in your
pictures
face
of
more.
it.
Right.
So they're going, wow, that's pretty neat. So not only people that want tattoos, but artistic people are seeing that
Right.
too and going, wow, that's going on. I can do something like that. I'm going to look into that.
Yep.
So it became a lot more exposed in our culture,
More available.
just because I think of exchange of information increased.
Mm-hmm.
So those like-minded people could get together and only get stronger and have their conventions and get new people pulled in.
Yeah.
And it's going to seep into the culture. And once it gets in enough to where you have 20-plus-year-olds now easily that have been raised by very heavily tattooed parents their entire lives.
Yeah.
That's never happened in American culture ever before. So when that person grows up and gets old enough to acquire those tattoos, in their mind embedded is, if I'm an adult, I'm tattooed.
Yeah.
Right. Because look, my
you grow
whole
up.
childhood, not only my parents, but my parents' friends,
Yeah.
my
Everybody
my
you looked up to
grandpa,
or whatever.
all these people were heavily tattooed. So why would I not get tattooed?
Because it's become the social norm.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's not. It's a cultural norm.
I think
That's
that's-
what I was
it's
saying.
part
I
of
don't
our
thi-
culture.
I don't
It's
think
who
it's
we are.
specifically to her question here. I don't think really the acculturated by the forces of capitalism really applies as much. I mean,
Right.
there's definitely a draw to people want to do it for the fact that they can make money doing it, being an artist per se, but. I don't think capitalism really had. If we were a socialist country per se or whatever, I think tattoos would still have been a culturally growing thing for us because we love doing art and people love getting tattooed for different reasons, which goes on to her second part of her question, whether it's narcissism or a desire to represent different parts of yourself. I don't know.
Basically, is it still because you want to be a badass, or is it lost that because it's been so
Yes.
accepted that it's more of just going along with it because it's what we do now, like drink coffee in the morning?
And how many rebels have you known that weren't narcissists to begin with?
How many?
Well, I
how
don't
many
mean-
what?
I don't think
any
it's-
substantial rebel
I don't.
Right.
was a bit narcissistic.
Oh,
There's
sure.
no way
Well,
around
sure.
that.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
But it's changed quite a bit.
But I
like,
think what she's needing about narcissistic is a narcissistic view of
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't
get, you know,
mean anything.
right. It's not to
passé.
separate from our culture now anymore.
Yeah.
No, in my opinion, no. It's not at
No.
all to be
stand
separate
out-ish,
or
yeah.
different. And I don't think that necessarily is what tattooing is to most people that get it.
No.
It wasn't for me.
Especially
I didn't want to.
nowadays.
I didn't
I
get them
think that's
because
how
it
it was-
made me different.
it
There's a
was
lot of
viewed
things I
that
could have
way
done
from
to
the
look different.
outside.
That didn't hurt.
From the outside perspective of somebody who wasn't tattooed, looking at
Right.
tattooed people, they would view it as narcissistic. But
Sure.
people who have gotten the tattoos, most of us,
Right.
find that I didn't get these because of how I want you to view me.
Right.
I got these for me. They make me feel better.
because I like it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not really in our minds getting tattooed. You're not feeling narcissistic, but that I can understand
The view,
the view
people
from
thinking
that's
it's a
how it was.
narcissistic.
and that's how our society probably has, or why it would be that way.
I
Face-
think
Go ahead.
I think that's one of our generation's most defining things.
Yeah.
Like you had World War II generation, they was a great generation. They freed the world. You had the baby boomers were the hippies. They tried to enforce, more relaxed love.
Right.
So we were raised by them. So we were raised to be more tolerable and understanding of other people's feelings or art and, more in tune with stuff like that. And up until then, the majority of the people that weren't tattooed, when they viewed people that were tattooed, you were either in the service or
Right.
in prison
Oh, yeah.
or a biker.
Yeah.
You know what I
a
mean?
criminal or
yeah.
a serviceman.
And that was that outside view in that opinion. Well, we all saw different because our baby booming parents raised us not to judge people and be so, critical and give them a chance.
Right.
So once we found out that a lot of really cool people out there and really nice people are tattooed guys and girls and people, so we grew up thinking, well, they look really cool and they're not bad people. Yeah. So we decided to rebel in a sense and define ourselves by getting body modifications. Just like you got heavily tattooed and pierced, and like you were still very much aware that like you're the guy that holds the door when you're going into the store for somebody, or you're mindful that people look at you a lot. So you make eye contact, you go, hi, how you doing? Even if they don't respond to you, like you just demolish that stereotype, that these people are uneducated and rude and mean and bad people. And that was more of like the goal. Like,
and that actually messed with them more.
Absolutely.
Well, and I've found being heavily tattooed, or at least I used to be considered heavily tattooed.
Still
now you're average.
No, you're heavily tattooed still. I mean,
well, but yeah, I guess visibly, Anyway, I found it. I think overall, it's made me a kinder, nicer person because I found myself, and it wasn't conscious, at least not at first, that I was doing it, but I would overcompensate because I'm assuming that they are already downgraded me just a little bit, and I want to do the best I can for tattooed people and myself to show them like, hey man, if you were one of those people that ever, I'm at least not a bad guy.
You're representing
so I think
us.
it's made me kind of be more nice than I normally would, because I not only want to do what I can to destroy that stereotype, but I want to be a good representative of heavily tattooed people, if that doesn't sound too dumb. Well, but I think
I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of the most people when they rebel, when they're trying to self-express and etc., it's supposed to be about exploring yourself as an individual.
Sure.
Now, generally, this happens in some subculture where there is definitely a uniform and a code of conduct and etc. that happens. At the time you're doing these things, I don't think it really has anything to do with what anybody else thinks. To me, it was just like, I want a tattoo.
Right, yeah.
Well, I was interested. I like the art.
I have much more offensive T-shirts and other things I can do to freak you out.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Why, this is just one extension of it. And I'm trying to learn about who I am. It was a process with that. And I think that's really at the heart. If you really start digging into like the whole modern primitives movement, it was trying to explore yourself.
Yeah, what makes you happy?
It was like there was no more frontiers left. We've conquered all of the planet. None of us are going to space. So let's explore what our bodies can do, what our bodies are capable of. How can we change them? And looking back to how ancient cultures did that. So to say like, oh no, it's just a capitalist thing. Well, as a culture, American culture, pop culture, whatever you want to call it, part of that culture is now being modified. That doesn't make it less important or more important.
You're going to have a capitalist in anything you do. Any trend, any lifestyle, anything you do. Even if it goes down to rudimentary survival, you have to eat. There's going to be a guy that's going to jump up and go, hey, man, I'm going to sell these people food. Or I'm going to like. There's always people that's going to figure out a way to make money off whatever is a necessity or a need or a want. It's just a fact. But I'm with DaVo. Like, I don't think that tattooing is really... It's really been defined or controlled by capitalism, honestly.
Most of the places that run, there's very few corporate type situations that people are tattooing.
Well, and
now anyway.
From a little different perspective, I just think, look at humanity, look at humans. What do we not have that isn't decorated, that isn't painted, that isn't adorned, that isn't, have some patterns on it, right? Everything,
your house, your car.
So what's the difference, if you're around the campfire and you're poking around and a stick that's been burned pokes you and leaves ash under your skin and weeks and a year later it's still there and you're like, that's kind of neat. I can put a pattern, I can decorate myself. I've decorated everything, my pots, my home, my city, my everything. Why would I not, if it's an option, decorate myself?
That's why we
as
tattooed
human
each
beings,
other's since
we love
caveman days.
Music, we love rhythm, we love and we love to see that as well.
Right.
So I think it's just in us.
And the reason why these built into these tribal cultures is because they wanted to say, hey, You're part of me.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
belong
Yeah.
to me. We are
Yeah.
a family.
Yeah.
We are a group. We're going
Right.
to do this as a group.
Yeah.
And it's going to define that we're part of this group in case we meet
Right.
another group.
Right. Yep.
And, they may be good guys or bad guys or what have you, but they're going to know where we came from.
Right.
And they're going to know you're part of me and you're part of what I represent
Exactly.
and what my moral causes are and et cetera.
And what more of a permanent way to show it, or a deep
Right.
way to show it than
It's
to
permanent.
permanently
Yeah,
mark
alter your
yourself
body.
as I am allegiant to that.
You know,
and
either
I think that's
through
another layer, or maybe another use or reason on top of others that humans are so heavily
Yeah.
tattooed and do.
It's why people get their favorite band tattooed on
Or whatever.
It's so they can be at a party somewhere and go, dude, you like blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Oh man, nobody recognizes that symbol, man. And then they
Right.
instantly have that bond.
Right, and they're
Yep.
showing as when you like that Pantera tattoo it shows
Yeah.
like, hey man, no matter what, live or die, I don't care what you think, I like
them.
Pantera.
Yep.
Yes.
You know,
May
it
not
puts
admit
that
it.
extra
Yeah.
crank on.
Yeah.
Oh, you like Pantera?
Yeah.
Oh, you got a Pantera tattoo? No,
No,
I do.
I do.
So not only can I prove it,
Yep.
it puts me just that little
Yep.
click above anybody who doesn't have
Well,
that.
even to
Yep.
this day, when I tattoo somebody at the shop and they're hearing, oh, it's my first tattoo or blah blah blah, I'm like, I like to joke with them. I'm like, oh, well, I started out with my first tattoo one day too.
Yep.
Because all of us did. We all
Yep.
started with that first tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
But every time they get up, by the time we're finished, I'm always like, all right, cool, man, welcome to the club.
Yeah,
And they always
totally.
like, and I'm like, yeah, man, like this is a club.
Like,
It's a
well,
tribe,
You're
like-
changed. Well, yeah. I mean, you're changed. Even if it's in a small way, you're
Doesn't
changed
matter
until you die.
You're in.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can forever go around heavily tattooed, lightly tattooed. Anybody that has a tattoo, once you have one, you can go and go,
Yeah,
hey
it's kind
man,
of that.
Yeah.
You
I got
share
one too.
something, no matter
we
what.
share
and
something.
If
We've
nothing
been
else,
through that experience
Yep.
together.
Exactly.
You have a shared experience.
Yep.
Right.
That
Yep.
can't be altered.
Yeah, you
Right.
suffered through the pain. You sat
Yep.
through the crazy tattoo guy that you sat with, and the whole experience of going to that wild shop. And
You've
been
that
there.
there was a mental cost and a physical cost to
Yep.
getting that,
And we've shared in it.
Either, no matter how big or little I hold that in my brain, we still shared and had to go through that same
Yep.
those
It's a
same
deep
doors in our
connection.
brain to get to
Right.
that result.
Yeah.
And some people don't do it.
right,
So yeah,
I was
if nothing else, we
That's
share
that
that.
proof.
That's that club.
I was
Yeah,
going to touch on
exactly.
earlier when you were talking about old tribes, cave people, everything in between in human history that's done tattoos. The only reason
Right.
it was ever even an act of rebellion in our society was because somebody else told us we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Yep.
but
Which-
so I don't think it
which-
was ever really an act of rebellion for our culture, people in general, because like we've said,
didn't
everybody's
start out that
always
way.
really wanted it. It just previous generations were told no, that was bad, you can't do it, until we've gotten to a point where our technology and our culture has been a little bit more lenient and willing to accept it, and people are going to push that boundary a lot more, which is why it's grown. But it's always probably previous generations. It's always been in people's heads.
We've been
that they
tattooing each other
wanted
since
something.
caveman days.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which, what you're talking about is the period of time post-war World War II where it was so repressive as a culture. And regardless of what your walk of life was,
Yep.
some
It
had
didn't
it
matter.
worse than others.
absolutely.
And the whole cultural revolution that we're still to a
Yep.
degree going through started because of that. It
Yep.
was a reaction to that, and part of that was
Right.
tattooing and piercing.
Mm-hmm.
And that rebellion, I think, is the other thing about this is I've often, as someone who's an old punk rocker who's lived through all the ups and downs of that nonsense.
Yep.
The thing I'd always get asked by younger kids, like, dude, it must suck to be, this has got to seem really placé, or, I wish I would have been around when you are. When we were back at the very beginning and there was 5 people at a show, what we were wishing for is that the next generation, the next group of kids that got into this when they were 14, 15 years old, there'd be 200 people
Yes.
there.
Yep.
We wanted a better thing
Yep.
for the next generation. And I
Exactly.
felt the same way about piercing and tattooing. I
Yep.
want someone to not have to go through any prejudice that I may have gone through.
Right.
I want somebody to be able to easily accept or easily go out when they decide they want to get it, do a little bit of research,
And be
and
available
actually
for good
find somebody
quality
that's
work.
capable of doing it, that's skilled, that's experienced, that is a nice, decent, ethical person, and is going to do it safely.
Absolutely.
Because those options were limited when I first started getting it.
Yep.
So that is like
very
in
true.
itself just a wonderful
Yeah, it's
achievement.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what else is like, especially in these days and times, with all this crazy, politics and separations, and you're different because you like guys, you're different because you like girls, you're different because you're this color and purple and polka dotted. I think really now it makes me realize more. Like that's kind of, we're alienated to that. Like we're tattooed, so we're in a club, and once you're in that club, it doesn't matter. Like we have that connection. Like that's why black people aren't black, white people aren't white, Indians aren't Indians. Like we're tattooed people.
Yeah.
And once you become a tattooed people, like you've shedded that, I guess that recognizing as, well, I recognize as, you know, a white person or a black person or a purple person or a green. I recognize as a tattoo person.
Right.
I'm in a whole nother tribe and club, and we're all unified
And in the
because we
process-
share one simple thing, and what, no matter how small it is, we can all understand as humans that we share one thing in common. Even though we can't grasp we're humans, we already have that.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes it takes an act like a tattoo to bring you back to that, and like that's what I really love. I can go in and out. I can go out with my friends from any genre, sexual preference, color, part of the country,
Doesn't
world.
matter, but you
and
can share that.
Yeah, and I can share that because I'm not looked at as this minority of these other, like, you know, deadly, threatful
Yeah. Yep.
factions.
Yep.
Made up
And I mean,
clubs.
I really relish in
nice
that,
to nice
dude.
to
And
see
I'm,
those
I wish
breakdowns.
more people could understand and enjoy or get something that they get from that that's that deep. But until they do,
It
they're
breaks
here to
down a lot
tattoo
of
you.
barriers.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tattooing is different things to different people.
And it breaks down barriers, and it starts
Absolutely.
conversations you normally wouldn't have.
Very true.
Now, granted, I would love to go back to 1989 or so when I'd see somebody with a tattoo, and we'd sit down and have like a long conversation about tattooing, because it'd be the first person I'd seen in like
Right.
weeks that had another tattoo. However, it does. It breaks down barriers. It puts you in places where you normally wouldn't be. And that is the basis of tolerance, is understanding and connecting and having empathy.
Right.
Yeah, and
One thing
accepting
I-
other people's differences. Like,
Yeah. One thing I do want to bring up, you know, the whole capitalism versus modern primitivism, and I have seen a vast increase in the number of females getting their nipples pierced. Now, there's a lot of people that would say, like, most piercings, when they get trendy like that, it's usually like, oh, yeah, it's so cute, I saw it on Pinterest, and blah, 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 and it's all driven by social media, and often it's a terrible idea, like an ANA, like the surface trachea. Nipple piercings is not something they're going to be showing off to everybody and their brother. Yet I'm seeing an increased number of women getting it done. And the number one response I get, usually a couple weeks after, or people that have had it done on the channel and have commented, is my self-esteem is so much better than it used to be.
it's aesthetically pleasing and it makes you
It's,
feel better.
I
about
feel
yourself.
improved. I feel like I feel
Absolutely.
comfortable now removing clothing in front of somebody.
Good.
So that to me is a huge part of it. And if that isn't modern primitivism, I don't know what is at its basis.
Huh.
Yeah, it really is.
yeah.
That's a great way to look at it.
Just to make sure I understand, so the women are saying after they've gotten their nipples pierced that it's
feel
helped their
better.
self-esteem?
Yeah,
Yeah, they feel better about
comfortable
how
in
they
their body.
look.
off.
And,
It's-
Do you think that has anything to do with the fact they had to overcome showing their breasts to you, a stranger, to have it
Part
done?
of it.
Do you think,
Maybe.
yeah, would that
Part
play
of
a
it,
role?
but also I think a lot of it comes down to their partners.
Yeah.
You know, they're self-conscious. Just like, you know, I got a gut. I don't like taking off my shirt in front
Sure.
of a new woman. You know,
Okay,
it's kind of
sure.
the same thing.
Right.
You know, at some point in time, they've had maybe some body issues, or you know, which I don't think anybody on this planet living in this culture, getting bombarded by these super thin people that don't really exist and have been altered through surgery, could not have, especially if they've grown up in the last 20 years.
yeah, the expectations are outrageous.
Yep.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting though. Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome
it's
to know
just
that you
like
can make
it's
that
like
impact.
Yeah, and that's the empowering part of my job. One of
They
them.
didn't have to have plastic surgery or life-changing, threatening
Yeah.
procedures done. It's just a simple
Well,
piercing.
and you know, I've heard on that note, I've heard a lot more people referring to getting tattooed, referring to it as therapy.
Yeah.
They
Absolutely.
more and more. I mean, you always had those go clients that would say that, but it seems like a lot more I'm having my clients refer to their appointments as therapy. So I think there's that component maybe to it as well, that people are realizing that they get even more out of it than maybe you'd first
Well,
think.
Which
it
is
even
part
goes
of that-
back to your experience also, like we were talking about, like,
It's-
how your tattoo artist interacts with you.
It's part of the body play thing. It's part of the experience of having it, the ritual of having it.
Right.
Let's face it, religion has kind of taken a downward spiral in the last 40 years. a lot of people, they don't have any type of like religious connection and things. It's a cultural that they
They
used
don't
to
feel
do.
Nothing to
part
hold
of
them back.
anything, and that
Exactly.
comes back to being in that club.
In the club.
Plus, you're kicking in endorphins. A lot of times, and we've talked about this before, how we've all had clients that are going through some rough period in their life, and this is one of their ways of
Coping with it.
coping with
Yeah.
it. If they've had like a some type of major
Loss
health
or
issue
health
or a
issue.
loss or whatever, it's part of the process for them. So
Yeah,
it is
dealing.
therapeutic. Also, just sitting there and talking to a stranger about stuff that you normally wouldn't talk about.
Yeah,
sometimes
just getting
is
it
what
out.
Yeah, it's
is.
like having a therapist. This dude's never going. He doesn't really know my name. He's not going to repeat it.
Yeah.
He, probably not going to remember it because he has to do it a million times a
That
day, which is
whole
true.
Hairstylist.
Yeah, you
thing.
can come just as bartender,
minutes of
hairstyle,
worthwhile
priest. You can
conversation.
confess and just get some shit off your chest. Get tattooed. Get that pain.
Because
in,
even if you judge
go.
me, I pay you. So
Doesn't matter. It doesn't
Right?
matter. And I'm
And-
notorious for it, dude. When I've broken up with a chick or changed something in my life drastically, hey man, are you busy? I want to get something. I want to do something.
Me too.
What do you want to do? I
I've
don't
noticed
care.
myself doing that.
The
Yeah.
instinct to binge.
Yeah.
That's and binging can be a lot of different things. It can be self-destructive, or it could be getting piercings, or getting a
used to be
tattoo, or getting a
self-destructive.
browning, or branding, or buying a new car that you can't afford.
Right.
Whatever it is, it's
something
a
to help
form
move
of
through.
going. I'm worth this.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of it.
That
It's
is
that
very true. Yeah.
regardless of what happened with that person or what caused this, my health issues, losing somebody, I am worth investing in myself.
And you're
Very true.
part
Because
of
that's what you're really doing.
Yeah.
You're part of the good part of that, like coming up.
Yep.
You're not helping them go down and hit the bottom.
Right. Well,
You're helping them come back from
You're
whatever.
you're part of the
Yeah.
coping,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
in-
And you're on
in
the
some
upside
cases.
of it, which is a nice thing.
Yep, I agree.
That's a very
much so.
cool question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an excellent question, I think.
And on
Yeah,
the capitalism thing, I don't
So I don't
do
think
you
it really
know of
played
any
in as
major
much.
corporation that's been
Well-
involved in actually owning tattoo shops? I mean, there's
No.
large shops.
But if you
Hunting.
go back to like East and West Coast,
Yeah,
there's
say-
there's tattoo schools.
Yep.
Yeah.
There, which is a joke.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of guys in here tattooing melons, and then at the end of
Yep.
this so many hour course, and you paid so much money, we're either going to give you a certificate that you
Yep.
passed and you can technically tattoo or not. You still don't have a state license. You
Yep.
still are not qualified to operate.
you don't
on
have
somebody.
anywhere to work.
But like
Yeah.
that's capitalist. I get it. People are charging these people, and I got a student. I've got 5 students in each class. I got 6 classes. Everybody's paying me $5,000 a piece to go all the way through. Like that's
Yeah,
capitalism.
Well, that's
but
a result of capitalism,
Yeah.
but that happens in any regard.
industry,
you
right.
can
Yeah.
mail order a priest
Right.
card and
Well, that's
everything
my-
else.
yeah,
if there's
that's
an
my
app,
point.
if
Kinda
someone
the-
can make money off of it, they're gonna.
Yeah.
But we
Kinda-
don't have a situation where like a major
corporate thing, yeah.
corporation, like
Well, and I think part of the reason is because individually artists are different. It's not like
Yes.
a major company that can hire the same 500 people to do the same exact job on an assembly line or answering a phone or whatever. Artists are individual, and you have to deal with them as a boss individually. And like there's Chris
God,
Prisner, Chris,
No
right?
shit.
Chris Prisner owns the Lucky Gal shops here in Des Moines. I think there's 3 of them. I'll be surprised if he opens a 4th one because
yeah,
there's
and-
so many individual
Good luck, buddy.
There's a couple
personalities you have to
people
deal
out there
with. But
that
yeah, so
own shops that aren't
Yeah.
tattooers, and notoriously, like, not saying that they're wrong or right or good or bad.
yeah,
If they're great businessmen, they'll last.
yep.
But
You have to have great
it's
business.
never
going
going to raise against a street shop level.
Wait,
Yeah.
And it's-
are we talking about this?
we're talking about
Well, I
capitalism.
guess we don't have to really, but
we don't have to go too far into
Okay.
this. What I'm going to say,
yeah.
and we'll just finish it out with this.
Okay,
if that's
'cause
not
we
mine,
that could be a whole
Yeah.
different subject.
Yeah,
one
it
of
is.
these days.
That's
is-
going to get into a different side.
Okay.
is that you need to understand that most tattoo studios are mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
And the way this economy's
owned by
been going over the last 8 months, we may be some of the last ones.
Yeah, very, very
So
true.
support your local studio.
Right?
Please.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
Yep.
it's not free to have a place like this.
Yep.
I think we've pretty much beaten this one to death, don't you think?
I think,
Or-
yeah, I'm really. That was an awesome question, man.
That was a great
Thank you very
question.
much for
Thank you.
submitting that. I'm going to try to start posting more stuff on our community page.
Yeah.
on YouTube.
I hope we answered it well.
These were all responded on there, and also talking about some changes I'm doing with pros and cons by peers there. So and great input from everybody. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
So
much.
thank you
Thanks
for
for
watching, everyone. You've been watching Q&A in the Kitchen. It's a podcast and YouTube video, I guess. Channel. We have a body
Channel.
piercing
Yeah, we
and
got our own
tattooing
channel.
channel. This is a series we do on Sundays. You can watch the video one week, and the next week we'll post the podcast edition.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this anywhere and it's just the podcast, please subscribe where you're listening. If you'd like to share this, please do so. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you liked it, because we like it when you like it. Also, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you're notified every single time we post something. If you like merch, you like things that relate to body piercing and tattooing and all that fun stuff, and the holidays are coming up.
I was going to mention that as well.
Yeah.
Tattoo fans love getting stuff like that. So, check it out, because there is literally something for everyone.
Yes,
it's ridiculous how much.
We have leggings. We have T-shirts. We have
Jam-packed
hoodies.
stickers.
Hoodies would be a great gift this time of year.
Pullovers and zip-ups and all that.
Sweatshirts,
And we have
leggings,
fanny packs.
And
I'm just
pillows.
proud of that.
And blankets.
pillows.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Beach towels.
Keep
not
your
so
loved
useful.
one warm.
Good stuff
Not
to
till
keep
summer.
warm with. But anyway.
But those links are in the description. Also on YouTube, of course, there's the merch bar below. Thank you for watching. For all those, why am I having these problems today? I didn't get much sleep last night, boys and girls.
I think there was a shift in the solar system that
Mercury in retrograde.
I'm just getting ready for daylight savings time to go away, and then I'll really be screwed up. Yeah, it snowed. Maybe
That's
that was what it
It's the
was.
snow.
hibernation mode.
Thanks
But
for watching
anyway.
us, guys.
All right.
Here's hoping all your tattoos and piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, we hope to see if your body piercing and tattooing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody.
Be kind.
See you guys.
Rewind.
Be nice.